What's up, everybody? Welcome back to week 3 of the Uncomp Alpha power rankings, schedule predictions. We're going to talk a little bit about trades. So I hope you guys all enjoy. And let's get right into this one. Sorry about the little bit of a delay with this one. I was just doing some shit. I was busy. But we're getting this one out right now, so it should be exciting. Let's start off with our power rankings. And obviously last week, I ended up going 1-4 predicting these games. Schlegel's team managed to pull off an upset. I know Ant's team won the game. I thought Creeth was going to upset that one. But terrible week overall for me. I'm bringing up some of the trades on my end to kind of just talk about those real quick before we head into the power rankings. Obviously, me and Sean made a trade. I move on from Russell Wilson and Troy Franklin. I pick up Garrett Wilson. I won't go too in-depth on that one. Obviously, I think it helps out both teams. Sean had no quarterback. He gets Russell Wilson. Adds Troy Franklin, who's been really solid for the Broncos this year. I obviously pick up Garrett Wilson, who's dealing with a Justin Fields concussion right now. So how productive is he going to be? I do really like the value of that trade, though. I think Wilson's going to do really good with Fields under center when he does come back. So I'm excited to see how that one plays out for my team, adding another good receiver onto the squad. The other big trade was also going to be Fowler and Albright going before Sunday night. Fowler's receiving Jonathan Taylor while giving up Tony Pollard and Aaron Rodgers to Albright's team. Albright needs a quarterback after that Purdy injury. Maybe a bit of a hasty move on Albright's part, considering they're saying Purdy might be back for week 3 already. So I don't know how I feel about that. Obviously, picking up Pollard's a good option in that trade along with the backup quarterback. So I do like the value we got there out of that. I don't think Albright won the trade, though. If I had to give a grade on that one, I do think I would give Albright like a B- because he didn't get absolutely fleeced. He does still pick up Pollard. He does have Najee on his IR. So, like, a lot of the trade does make sense for him. Obviously, needing a quarterback with the rumors out at the time. It did make a little more sense, obviously, then. I am going to give it a B-, though, looking at it right now. And I'm going to give Fowler an A. I mean, you pick up JT at the expense of a backup QB from Tony Pollard. That's an A in my book. I really like that deal for Fowler. Obviously, he's moving up my power rankings this week. Big week. Got a lot of good players on his squad. We'll talk about that. But those are just my grades overall for the two trade that happened. I'm not going to grade mine. I do think I won, though. I do think Sean got a good haul on his end, but I'll leave that one for you guys to grade. Just moving into our power rankings, though, let's talk about this. Obviously, Ant and Jordan locking down that 1 and 2 slot. I'm a really big fan of what Anthony's got going on with his team overall. It's really talented. Same thing with Jordan. I've had Ant in my number 1 slot these last few weeks, so I really feel like I'm not going to change that up until something drastic happens, because I think Ant's got really good depth on his team. I think if there is one team right now that could usurp Anthony at that 1 slot, albeit Jordan being at that 2, I do think it's Fowler's team, which I'll get into again 1 second. Let's talk about Jordan's again real quick while he's at that 2 slot. Obviously, Buka's balling out. Travis Etienne, he got the boost there. Eckler injury this week. Torn Achilles. Bill looking like RB1 there. So we'll see what happens with that. But that obviously boosts his team up a little bit, especially with the Harvey injury. Or not Harvey injury, but Harvey just really not getting a lot of snaps right now. Really, really helps him out there. So I really do like what Jordan's got going on here. It's a really quality squad. He should keep winning football games. Obviously just lost to Schlegel's team by 0.3, which is really tragic. But hopefully that doesn't happen again. We'll see what happens there. I do really like what Jordan has going on, though. Moving into our 3rd slot, and it's probably the team I'm most excited to talk about a little bit. It's going to be Fowler's team. And I really, really, really like what Fowler has done to the squad. Obviously, upgrading Pollard to JT is massive, and he still has solid quarterbacks. Obviously, Bryce Young isn't doing great. Bo Nix hasn't been doing great. I do like Bo Nix for the long term this year, but Bryce Young, I don't really know how I feel about that. Obviously, a Tucker Kraft breakout along with Fanning and hooping. You've also got Tyler Warren on your bench. You got Tyler Warren and Tucker Kraft. That might be my best tight end room in this league right now. Beside Damian's, who's got Bowers and Laporta, which is just broken. But even then, I feel like Kraft Fanning has produced more than Bowers Laporta at this point in the year, which is crazy. Obviously, Fowler has that elite trio of receivers with CeeDee Amon-Ra, Ladd McConkey. Getting JT is so big because you have these 3 stud receivers. You've got a good tight end room. If you can just build up the running back room a little bit, you're really, really, really going to be competitive. And I really like what he's got with JT and Swift and Nick Chubb. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, he's got a little more depth on that bench. Obviously, a QB upgrade could be in time. Maybe a tight end upgrade over Fanning. Who knows? Well, obviously, he has Warren. So, yeah, I don't really know. I think Warren's going to play this week, so he'll be in that starting lineup. DeAndre Swift, I don't know if he plays Swift over Chubb. But, again, I really, really, really like what Fowler's going on here. I would just think that he's a QB away right now. If he can just get an upgrade over Bryce Young, or if Bryce Young can turn up, he could easily take this one spot. Because I think his core is definitely advancing over Anthony's by far. By far. Because, I mean, again, that JT trade is just so massive for him. Upgrade from Pollard to Jonathan Taylor. But moving into our 4th team, we're going to have Loudy. And Loudy moves down 1 slot, more so for the rise of Fowler. And the same thing for Matt. Fowler's rise just kind of bumped these guys down 1 slot. Obviously, Fowler just beat Loudy as well, so I couldn't really put Fowler under Loudy after that win. I mean, it was a dominating win, 216 to 119. Gotta have a soda with me. 216 to 119. Obviously, Loudy also has a J.J. McCarthy injury now. Gonna have to start Geno Smith. Good backup. Geno didn't look good last week, so we'll see what happens there. Obviously, some 3 open bench spots for Loudy, along with Christian Kirk potentially coming back from injury. Aomanor's been really good for him as well. Puka's wide receiver 1 in fantasy right now, and Hampton should pick it up. So I really like what Loudy's got going on as well. And then moving into our 5th team, we're going to have Matt. And the little hiccups in between each one are me just like bringing up the rosters so I don't forget to talk about anybody, because I do want to make sure I really go in depth with how I look at these lineups and where I put these teams in the rankings. Obviously, Matt at my number 5 slot, same thing as Loudy. He just moves down 1. The reason I don't move him above Loudy at all with QB injuries and blowouts and getting a win this week is because Aaron Jones does go down with an injury. He is currently starting Carson Wentz over Sam Darnold, so who knows how that'll play out. For me, that's just a bit of a question mark. Obviously, Goddard, obviously Matthew Golden, Keon Coleman fell back down to earth, which I could have told you that was going to happen. He's a game script receiver. If the game script's in his favor, he's going to ball out. If the game script is not in his favor, he is not going to ball out. And my computer just had a spaz. No way. That's annoying. But like I was saying, Keon Coleman's very, very, very game scripted receiver, and we saw that week 1. I mean, obviously the stat sheet's going to tell you that Keon Coleman had a massive week 1, but if you really look at it, I'm 99.99% sure that like almost all beside like 1 or 2 of those catches came in like the 4th quarter when they were having that crazy comeback. So obviously he likes throwing to Keon in those good situations, which is what you like to see. But what about those first 3 quarters? He's doing nothing in those quarters, which is really tragic. Moving into his running backs, probably the best RB duo in the league with Gibbs and McCaffrey. Zay Flowers has been balling out this year. So I really like what he's got going on with that. And obviously Tyreek Hill had a really good week. Obviously a lot of trade rumors going around there. Josh Jacobs scores another touchdown. I really, really, again, I know I keep saying this. I like what these top teams have going on, which is why they are in my top 5. You know, these are going to be the teams that are likely going to be in the playoffs. And we're gonna see these matchups come to fruition in the playoff time. You know, like these teams are going to start playing each other, and these are going to be crucial matchups for each other to see where like teams kind of fall in the rankings. And obviously bad weeks play into account. You have to take those into account when building these rankings, because just because, say, Jaden Daniels puts up 4 points a week and you lose, that doesn't mean your team's automatically going down the rankings and Jaden Daniels had a bad game. Like, I understand that Daniels is still a top 3 quarterback in the league. So, like, it's kind of up to opinion, like I'm saying. But, again, these top 5 teams, I really like what they've got going on here. We're going to move down to our 6th slot, which is kind of where, with Creed's team starting, is where I kind of fall into, like, I don't really know how I feel what they've got going on here. Creeth, obviously, Jaden Daniels may or may not be hurt. So if you're watching this, somebody should pick up Marcus Mariota. I'm releasing this early. Waivers drop at 12. So you've got about 2 hours from this release, 1.5 hours to pick up Mariota. His running back room is a little interesting. I mean, David Montgomery is a really interesting guy. Never really been a huge fan of him. He kind of hasn't really shown me much this year. Sharp has that flex number 2 is pretty interesting. Obviously, Diggs hasn't been too worthwhile. I like Jonnu Smith. I just traded for Jonnu Smith in my other league. I think he could be a dog in that offense as long as he continuously plays a lot of snaps. I mean, that's going to be a 2 tight end offense. So I've always felt like Rodgers just likes tight ends, even in Green Bay. I mean, you look back, like Richard Rodgers, like he was making these guys that were absolute bums at tight end look half decent. Mercedes Lewis for a very, very long time. Not a bum, but just like the main tight end I feel I can associate with Rodgers for a very long time. But again, Creed's team, it's got a bit of a question mark. Obviously, some guys need to just start hooping for him to go up the schedule. Marvin Harrison being a big one. His quarterbacks, he has the best quarterback room in the league, so he's really got to kind of balance that out. I'm in the same position as him in another league, 2 elite quarterbacks, kind of just hoping my flexes kind of pan out. Same thing with Marvin Harrison. I need Marv to pan out in that league, so me and Creeth are kind of in similar spots, so as long as my team's 0-2 in that league, so I mean, if I can pick it up, I'm sure Creeth can pick it up. So we'll see what happens there. Devin is going to be in my 7th slot. And this is kind of where, again, I'm falling into that weird area. Devin has Justin Fields potentially out this week. Evan Ingram has not been doing good, so Cade Otton is going to fall into that tight end spot in the lineup. Jordan Mason is a huge piece to have, obviously. No Aaron Jones for the next 4 weeks, so you're going to have potentially 4 must-win games coming up while you have another RB1 in your lineup. Travis Hunter is falling out of his lineup. Javonte Williams is a beast this year. I think he's got a really, really, really good team. I just think that there's some question marks at quarterback, at tight end, at your super flex. I also think there's some question marks with your flexes. Terry needs to pick it up. Javonte needs to maintain. And Jordan Mason, you only have 4 weeks with. Unless he maintains this starting role for the whole season, which is going to boost your team up those rankings. Because when you have another RB1 on your team, I value that. I think I value RBs the most in this league. When I value my rankings. Like, if you have 4 stud running backs in your lineup like Devin is about to have, if he can just manage with those other positions, and I mean, he's got Jettas and Higgins, if he can just manage, I really think Devin has a chance to make the playoffs and make some noise, even if the record doesn't look too great by the end of the season. Moving into our next spot, which is going to be number 8, and this is where we're going to see our first riser beside Fowler. And I know he's going to be happy to see his team moving up the rankings a little bit. We're going to have Damian. And I know Damian has some question marks in his lineup right now. Obviously, Trey Benson. Obviously, Chuba. Obviously, Tyrone Tracy. We did talk about how that Brian Robinson Jr. trade did screw him over. But, again, I mean, I really don't hate what's happening here. Tyrone Tracy just needs to hold on to the role for this team. And Trey Benson just needs to usurp that role. If Damian can get, like, another flex piece or 2, I could really see him moving up these rankings more. And obviously, he's only ahead of, like, the 2 0-2 teams and Schlegel, who I'll talk about in a little bit, who I still have my 11th, even though he's 2-0. I think he's just missing a piece or 2. If you can add a running back, I think that'd be huge. Obviously, he's got the 2 tight ends right now, which is massive to his team. He's also got 2 really solid quarterbacks. Drake May and Baker Mayfield are balling out. I mean, if they can keep balling out, and if those tight ends hoop, you get a little production out of a guy like Chuba putting you up 20. You get 20 out of Neighbors, get 20 out of Odunze. You're going to win games. So, I really, really, really don't hate what Damian's got going on here. I don't love it. Don't get me wrong. I do not love it. You need a running back. Trey Benson as your flex and QJ as your flexes are not going to be amazing. I can tell you right now, QJ is going to be the guy on Pat Surtain this week, most likely. He probably has one of the worst matchups in football. So we'll see how he does against that type of matchup, because if he can come out week 3 and put up solid numbers, it's going to completely change my outlook on how I view Quentin Johnson for the rest of the season. But if he comes out and puts up a dud, I mean, he's just going to be that same guy I always thought he was. Versus a good matchup, he probably won't do well. Versus a bad matchup, he'll get some targets, touchdown dependence. big deep ball guy. I do like what he does though. I mean, he's catching the ball times this season, so that's always huge. And he's got the backup quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback in this league, and he has Matthew Stafford. So I think it's going to get to a point where one of Baker, May, and Stafford gets dealt to help out the rest of this lineup. And it gets to a point where, like, as long as you can start winning your games, you're the backup quarterback. Like, you gotta start winning games at some points. So obviously Damian 1-1, almost half the league being at 1-1 is very huge for him. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously I put Jordan at 2-0. He's 1-1 right now. He's not 2-0. So I'm not giving Jordan the benefit of the doubt there. He's 1-1. I also have it saying week 2. It's week 3. So sorry for a bit of the editing errors and all of this. I tried my best. I just mixed up a few things. But overall, that's how I have my top 8. Moving into our bottom 3, though, these are the teams I probably dislike the most. Starting with Ethan's team, I think he's got the most potential for a return. Obviously, I mentioned it earlier. He's got Rodgers and Purdy now. His flexes are Debo, Jawan, Jake Ferguson. I mean, it looks good right now. How long can they maintain solid production, though? I don't know. I'm not a huge Debo guy. I'll never be a huge Debo guy, so that's going to be an interesting one for me to see how he pans out. Obviously, losing JT in your running back room is now Jalen Warren, Tony Pollard, Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know how I feel about that. Deshaun Tootin is looking really solid. Dante Thornton on your bench. Darnell Mooney on your bench. It's not a bad team. I just don't know where you can really benefit right now by upgrading your team, because you don't have like studs anywhere besides Trey McBride. You've kind of just got like average talent, and I don't know if I can put average talent this high up my list. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is in this lineup too, so it's really not a bad team. On a good week, it could beat any team in this league, but on most weeks, I think it's going to end up losing. Moving into our final 2 teams, we're going to have Sean at our 10 slot. Obviously, very tragic outcome for Sean, losing Joe Burrow for the entire season. In a league like this where you take Burrow so high in the draft, losing him for the entire season is absolutely brutal. Doesn't help that he also took Joe Mixon, who has no sign of recovery right now. So his RB2 is currently Kareem Hunt, because Travion Henderson isn't getting snaps. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got Troy Franklin in his starting lineup. He doesn't have a tight end either. I mean, he's got a tight end room of Hunter Henry, Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid. I don't know if I can trust any of those guys on a weekly basis right now. So we'll see what happens there. Khalil Shakir, solid, I guess. I guess the most exciting thing about this offense is Jacoby Myers, where Geno Smith decides he doesn't want to look anywhere beside Jacoby Myers' way, which absolutely frustrates me to the maximum, because I really, really, really do not like Jacoby Myers. So I guess we'll see what happens with him there. But again, I'm really not a huge fan of what Jacoby Myers does as a player. Moving into our final team, though, we're going to have Schlegel. And he's 2-0. Somehow. The only other 2-0 team besides my number 1 ranked team. And I have him in my 11th slot. And I'm sorry, I know you're 2-0. You should be 1-1 right now, because Jordan shouldn't have lost to you. But you got George Kittle on your IR. You got Rice and Addison suspended still. You got Godwin. You got Jaden Reed. I mean, Godwin's questionable, so he could be coming back soon. He's not on IR, so that's always a good thing. Jaden Reed wasn't thrown on IR, but I know that his injury was also a Jones fracture in his foot. They're saying 6 to 8 weeks, so I'm assuming he'll go on IR at one point or another. And the only players on your bench right now are Jaden Blue, Woody Marks, who are 2 backup running backs, one of those being a guy that gets healthy scratched every game. You're currently starting Ramondre Scatterbo, Michael Wilson, and the Moose. You also got Jawan Johnson in that starting lineup. So I don't want to talk about it too much. You got screwed over. You got auto drafted. I feel bad. I feel absolutely terrible. But right now, it's looking like a donation to the league. So, I mean, if you can make the playoffs with this team, Schlegel, I'd take that as a positive at this point. Me personally, I would have just threw this shit up in flames because this is absolutely tragic what's going on. I don't even know if I would have traded Josh Allen. I would have just been like, yo, Josh Allen drops 50. I might win a week. But that's going to be my power rankings for this week. Not too much movement outside of really Fowler going up a lot. I mean, if Fowler doesn't go up, we probably see a very, very, very similar look to our power rankings this week. Gonna move into our games, though. Obviously, talk about some trades, talk about some power rankings. Let's move into our schedule predictions. Went 1-4 last week. Let's start with game 1. We're gonna have Ethan versus Jordan. Very interesting matchup. The 0-2 Albright currently projected to outscore my number 2 ranked team, Jordan. So, obviously, I don't think that's gonna happen. I'll say that right now. I think Jordan's gonna win this matchup. I'll start it off easy. Start this off quick. I like what he's got going on overall, Jordan, with Lamar, Caleb over Hurts and Rodgers. I think I'm taking Jordan's flexes with McMillan and Buka Etienne over Debo, Jawan, Ferguson. I think the only spot where he really takes a huge advantage is Trey McBride over Kyle Pitts. Obviously, a lot of hate surrounding Brian Thomas Jr. right now. I think it's a lot of bullshit. I think he's still a very good player. I think he's gonna turn up at one point or another. He's got good hands, dude. He's I don't know what's going on. It's a mental thing. 1 to 2 games. I mean, it happens to me in 2K, man. I miss one shot, bro. I miss the next 4. Get in your own head. He's probably in his own head right now. You just got to take a second, take a deep breath, and we'll see what happens there. Obviously, JCM looking like RB1 this week. Could be a huge question mark. Last week he had 1 carry for like 2 carries. Week before he led the team in rushing yards. So he should be RB1, but we don't know what'll happen there. That could actually lose Jordan the game if he does start him and he doesn't put up points, but I do think he is going to put up points. So, and I also like Kyle Pitts a lot. I really think Kyle Pitts is going to make that tight end premium not look as much of a premium. But overall, I do think I'm going to take Jordan this game. I just like his team a lot. He's my number 2 ranked team. I don't really like a lot of what Ethan's got going on, so for me, this is probably one of my easier matchups to predict. Outside of the next one, which it's gonna be pretty easy, but I mean, I really just don't think that there's anything like standing out to me like matchup wise that I'm like, wow, this is tragic for the team. But there's really not anything standing out to me either that's gonna say like, yo, this guy's gonna absolutely torch another team. So I think I'm just gonna rock with the team I think is personally better, and I think that's Jordan. So we'll see what happens there. Game 2 is gonna be Negro versus Schlegel, and again, I'm gonna keep this one fast just because I feel bad sitting here for like 10 out of the 30 minutes of the video, and 10 of those minutes are me just ripping on Schlegel because it gets to a point, man. I mean, hopefully in 3-4 weeks, once he gets Addison Rice, a couple of these guys back, his team looks competitive, a lot more competitive than what it looks like right now, at least. But yeah, I think Negro's just got too much firepower right now to match what Schlegel's got missing. So again, pretty easy for me. I think Matt's gonna win this week. Unless Schlegel upsets Matt and goes 3-0, which would be absolutely bizarre. I do think Matt's going to take this week. Just for the fact that, this dude's got a Josh Jacobs in his flex, and I think Jacobs could outscore Scatterbo Wilson and the Freiermuth by himself. So, we'll see what happens there. But, again, I'm going to take Matt. And I'm also taking Jordan in that first game at this point in the video. Our third matchup is going to be Fowler versus Devin. Huge riser on our power rankings versus a bit of a faller on our power rankings. Obviously, Devin has no backup quarterback right now to replace Justin Fields if he does not play. Will that make much of a difference, though? I really don't know. I think that Devin could put up a fighting chance versus Fowler's team. Obviously, with Jordan Mason, Javonte Terry, I do think that Devin could win this week. If Tyler Warren plays, it's really going to look like a blowout in terms of Fowler. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I mean, because even if he picks up a quarterback, I don't know if that's going to do much to help him. Like, because Field is such a big rushing upside quarterback that, like, obviously if Tyrod Taylor comes in the lineup, I don't know if Tyrod Taylor does that much to really boost it to a point of what Fields could possibly do. But, I mean, I'm just looking at this still, and I don't know. It's just hard for me to bet against Fowler right now. He's my biggest riser. I really like what he's got going on. And this is not to say that I'm not liking what Devin's doing this week. Obviously, if Devin doesn't pick up a quarterback, he's got absolutely no chance of winning this week, in my opinion. If he picks up a quarterback, you're throwing a dart at the wall. And darts stick sometimes. Throwing the spaghetti at a wall, something's got to stick. So, hopefully he throws the right dart at a player and it sticks for him, and you could throw a fighting chance this week. But I mean, it's going to be closer than a lot of people think, even with the Fields injury. But I do think Fowler's going to come out on top. I really like what he's got though with Jordan Mason, Javonte, Kamara, Derrick Henry. I really, really, really like that. I just think having no quarterback is absolutely tragic. And I can't say I'm going to take him if he does start or pick up a quarterback, because I don't know if he will. So I'm just going to rock with my gut here, and I'm just going to take Fowler. Obviously, if there's a quarterback there, you can know in my mind, and I think this is going to be a way closer matchup. But right now, I'm just going to go Fowler. In our number 4 slot, we're going to have Creeth versus Sean. And obviously, Sean, my 0-2 team, just losing Joe Burrow for the whole season pretty much. Picks up Russ and Troy Franklin at the expense of Garrett Wilson as well, which is really going to hurt the outlook of this team because basically swap Burrow and Wilson for Russ and Franklin. And it's not to say I don't like what we've got going on here, because at the end of the day, I do think that he could potentially be Creeth this week. Creeth has some question marks. I mean, Jaden Daniels might not play. And if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, I think Sean can win. I mean, Keenan Allen's been doing well. Jacoby Meyer's been doing well. Khalil Shakir's been doing well. Sharp should get snaps. Jonnu, Devonta, Njoku versus Hunter Henry. Probably got the tight end advantage with Njoku. Nico and Marv versus A.J. Brown, Troy Franklin. He's probably got the receiver advantage. Brees versus Monty versus Kyron Hunt. I mean, Creeth has probably got the advantage in every category, honestly, over Sean's team right now. So, I mean, even if Daniels doesn't play and he starts one of Hollywood Downs' dinks, I don't know. Because I want to, like... Oh, sorry for yawning. There's a part of me that wants to take an upset right now. And I think that upset could be Sean this week. I don't know if Sean falls to 0-3. The part of me really, really, really wants to take this upset. But my gut is telling me, like, just take Creeth, man. I went 1-4 last week. I don't know how much more tragic it could get, though. Like... I'll say this. I'm going to say this. I was just in thought right there what I want to do. So, quick silence trick. I'll say this. If Jaden Daniels is ruled out and Creeth doesn't start another quarterback that he picks up, then I'm going to go Sean. But if if Jaden plays, Creeth 1,000%. If he picks up Mariota and starts Mariota, still going to go Creeth. But if Creeth goes into this week with one quarterback, I'll take Sean. So that's how I view this game. And then moving into our final matchup, probably our game of the week in my opinion. We're gonna have our 2-0 Anthony, that love to cook Brown and Jigbas, versus our 1-1 Loudy, the monsters of the Midway. And looking at the matchups right now, obviously Tua's going against Buffalo. That should be a tough one there. Hampton going against Denver. Puka going against Philly. Saquon against the Rams. On the other end, he's got Bijan versus Carolina. Hawkinson versus Cincinnati. Judy versus the Packers. Pearsall. Jordan Love versus the Browns. The Jigba versus the Saints. Chase Brown versus the Vikings. I think Ant's got a lot more favorable matchups on his end this week. Also, my number one ranked team, obviously, I do think he's the best team in the league. If his team plays well this week, I am going to pick Anthony's. That's not to say that I really, really, really don't like Loudy's team. I get to say this a million times. I really like Loudy's team. I just don't know if he can beat Ant this week. I think that's a bit of a question mark. I think Ant's got a really, really, really good squad, like I said, with the matchups. I think the only thing that I'm really taking Loudy's team over Ant's is probably those two receivers, Puka and DK versus JSN Sutton. If they can put up a massive week over what JSN Sutton do, Loudy has a good chance. Obviously, Kelsey over Hawkinson's a bit of a question mark there, too. Kelsey could potentially outplay Hawkinson like crazy, which would help out Loudy amazingly. But, again, I really don't know. It could be a toss and turn of who plays well, who doesn't play well. But my initial prediction is going to be I think Anthony's going to win this matchup. I really do. But that is going to be that. So, thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the week 3. Sorry for getting this video out a little later than I wanted to. That's just so on me. I'm going to have my Dynasty video out today as well if you guys want to tune into that. That should be a fun one to watch. But, yeah. That was all, boys. Again, I'm really sorry about this one late. I'll get this one out Wednesday of next week. Definitely, for sure. No questions asked. Obviously, getting this one out early for you for the lunch breaks this week, so hope that all works out well. But, again, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next week.